Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, for the final time on the Saturday's program of the second round of the 2023 ESET Cup Series. You are joining us on the grid here in Hungary for the start of the endurance race number 2 of this season. We've already raced in Germany at Oschersleben, and it was Filip Salakvarda who scored a victory, and we have the driver from Prague sitting on pole position yet again. He already took victory earlier on today in the sprint race, but now it's a little bit of a different challenge for him because it is an hour-long race with a mandatory pit stop. So it is again. Filip Salakvarda on pole position. This is now your new home, but how much of a different challenge it is for the endurance with the pit stop?
Yeah, we have to be careful with the tires because 1 hour is a long stint, and we have to maintain the good pace and also to not damage the tires, especially the rears. So we have to take care about the tires and to keep up the good pace and stay on the position where we are.
Okay, thank you very much. Enjoy the race. Let's now move to the opposition for this car. There is Miro Konopka alongside, but we have got the second GT3 machine and the biggest rival and challenger for the ISR racing teams, and that's Trevor Racing, driven by or shed by Gregor Gigot and Neil Verhagen. It is Gregor Gigot starting the race with the opening stint, but we have got the second driver, Neil Verhagen, and let's see, Neil, is there going to be a fight for the race victory? What do you have up your sleeves? What can we expect from you and your race?
Yeah, I'm going to give it everything for sure. I guess we'll have to see. We're going to see how the first stint goes. I think Gregor's going to do a good job, and then we'll see from there. I think from this morning we saw the Audi has a very good pace, and if we can find our way by, then I think we have a chance, but I think it's going to be very difficult like this morning.
And how's the M4 round here in Hungary? Is it driving well?
To be honest, I thought it was going to be a bit better than Oschersleben. It seems that we're struggling a bit more than I was expecting to, which is a bit surprising, but yeah, we're trying to make steps every time we go out on track, and hopefully we've made a step here.
Okay, thank you very much and enjoy your race.
Thank you.
So we now have to leave the grid, but let's just skip very quickly across the other cars that you have on the grid. You've got the other GT3 car of Libor Milota completing the second row of the grid, and right behind me, those are already the GTC cars. You have got Kurt Wagner and Pepa Záruba, the sole Mechanic Motorsport entry. They will be sharing their Lambo together, and alongside them, it's the Good Speed Racing's Piotr Vera and Dan Arrow. So that's it for the grid, and let's now join the action from the race itself.
Macedonian results of the Triple Cup. Thank you very much, guys, and congratulations again. This is your moment, and see you tomorrow for the next race.
And so this is it, the last race of the day, and it's the second endurance race of 2023. Cars ready on the starting grid and ready to get going. And here is your starting order. Filip Salakvarda on pole position, alongside him Miro Konopka. Behind them it's Gregor Gigot together with Neil Verhagen. They will be sharing duties behind the steering wheel of the BMW M4. Prepared by Trevor Racing. Alongside them, that's the third GT3 car, Libor Milota, in the colors of GT2 Motorsport. Row number 3, that is a shared machine between Kurt Wagner and Josef Záruba, Mechanic Motorsport entry. Alongside them, it is Piotr Vera together with Dan Arrow. Behind them, Dan Skalicky, and then the KTM GTX, driven, shared by Petr Lisaň, Pavel Sovička, and then Václav Janík and Franz Lamert completing the row number 5, and that is your top 10 of the starting grid. We've got quite a lot of cars on it, and now no longer on it actually, because everybody's set off for the formation lap here in Hungary. So we are now getting ready for the race start itself. It is going to be, of course, the rolling start. So we're not going to be starting from the standing positions, and that also means that the pole position is on the other side of the grid than it usually is. So normally you'll have the pole sitter on the left-hand side of the grid. Now it is the right-hand side to take the inside line into the first corner. In 11th, it's Janos Santa, so the local driver and the Aston Martin Vantage in the typical and legendary British racing green is back. Then we have got Alexander Ober in 12th, the pairing of Petr Brecka and Karel Neff in 13th, then it is the pairing of Centneren and Marcinkiewicz in 14th, Bob Bau in 15th, Ivan Vlachkov in 16th, Zeno Kovac as the leading GT4 car in 17th. And then you've got Antal Gigo and Csaba Walter in 18th. And Wiesmeyer, Lemmerhofer pairing in 19th. That's already the TCR territory. Adamek and Groszek, Aditis Racing, and their car in second among the TCR cars, and 20th place overall, Boris Kalman and Balázs Volenter in 21st, Richard Voschic in 22nd, and then Hans-Peter Eder, and then Lah and Kosic in 24th, Christian Wimberger in 25th, and Szabolcs Lantos in his sole Renault Clio Cup in 26th. So he's going to be racing with the fastest machines again. So that's going to be quite interesting for him and for everybody else as well, because that of course means that the overall speed difference between the fastest and slowest machines on the grid is quite significant. So it is again going to be a challenge, not only to squeeze the most out of your cars, but also navigate your way through the traffic. 26 machines getting ready for the race, and the pace car has now re-entered the pit lane, and we are bracing ourselves for the last start of Saturday's program of the second round in 2023 of ESET Cup Series here in Hungary. All the machines are back on the grid. We are waiting for the lights to drop, and they have done so right now. Filip Salaguarda immediately into the lead. Libor Milota has already dealt with the BMW and up into third, and now he's trying to fight for second as well. Breaking into the first corner. Everybody needs to be careful. It's a tight hairpin. Libor Milota up into second, and look at the Good Speed Racing's Mercedes taking a fight on the Trevor Racing's BMW. Oh, and there's a crash, there's contact between Gregor Žigo and the prototype of Miro Konopka, who is remaining now stricken in the middle of the road, facing the wrong direction. Luckily, he did not get collected by anyone, so everybody managed to avoid that car. Well, definitely the Dayglow livery now helped massively, because, yeah, the light conditions are getting worse and worse towards the end of the day, definitely. And if your car is basically wearing its own high visibility jacket, then it helps in such situations. But the beamer is off and the beamer is out. So we had a short interview with Neil Verhagen on the grid. He was hoping for a good race, but he is going to have none of it in the end, because the Trevor Racing's BMW remains stationary at the side of the road in the third corner, and we have got the safety car back out on the track after the opening lap crash between Gregor Žigo and Miro Konopka. That is very unfortunate, but there is also racing. So first drama already there, and there is Miro Konopka. He is going to be facing a pretty uphill challenge in the race. So the rest of the pack is now re-entering the start and finish straight, with Filip Salaguarda leading from Libor Milota. We then got the good speed racing pairing of Piotr Vera and Dan Arrow in third. Then there's the KTM GTX is actually down in fifth, but actually up into fifth, needs to be said. So it's Franz Lahmer in his Porsche 992 Cup, the Austrian driver, moving up into fourth at the start. Let's try and see that again. Yeah, that was the clash. This was actually the result of it already. It seems as though Gregor Žigo went a tad little too deep into the corner, understeered into the side of the Ligier and spun it round. And whereas the Ligier is going again, the BMW is probably precautiously out of the race. Not sure what was the view from Gregor's seat, but he decided to call it a day, probably with some warnings on his dash. And in order not to risk any further damage of his car, he had to pull over. But we didn't really see the clash itself. I mean, the precise angle and the spot where the both cars hit each other. But if that was a clash wheel on wheel, then that could have easily damaged the suspension and the suspension bearing, basically, or suspension mounting points, which means that the steering might now be bent on the BMW, and that, of course, is immediate retirement. On the other hand, it seems that the Ligier is fine. Or has it entered the pits? No, the Laptiming says that the ARC Bratislava's prototype is into the pits, and that would mean that it is out of the race, or at least now in the hands of the mechanics, who might be able to return the car back into the action, but we will have to see about that. So we've got the safety car. Let's tot up the scores again. It's Filip Salaguarda still leading from Libor Milota, and then the pairing of Piotr Vera and Dan Arrow. Franz Lahmer in fourth, then the pairing of Petr Lisa and Pavel Sovička in fifth. Dan Skalický in sixth. Petr Brecka together with Karel Neff in seventh, from Václav Janík, Alexander Ober, and then the pairing of Kurt Wagner and Josef Záruba. I saw Josef Záruba on the grid. He is waiting for his stint to come, so it's Kurt Wagner behind the wheel. And this is the M4 GT3 car of Trevor Racing now being... Ooh, and you'll see... No, the front left corner is fine. Is it? But the front left corner seems... The front left tyre seems a little too small, so it looks like punctured, but I wouldn't understand how the left front wheel would be punctured when there was a contact. Actually, it is punctured. How so? Because the hit went on the front right corner of the BMW against the ARC Ligier. Maybe in the following corner, did actually Gregor Žigo understeer into the wall, I'm wondering. But either way, he's out of the race, that is for sure, and nothing is going to change about that now anymore. So that's it. They can call it a day. Well, not the mechanics, obviously. They are now having to wait for the returned car and start working on it to make it ready for tomorrow, because the racing action is going to resume for the GTs pretty soon. And pretty early, actually, I was going to say, because the second quali, or the quali for the second race, comes at 10:05 tomorrow. We're going to start the racing action tomorrow at 8:30. Be ready for that and come back for that, because we're going to start with the second race of the Renault Twingos. After that, it's going to be the Czech Auto Club Formula at 9:20. After that, we're going to have a bit of a gap in the broadcast, but in the meantime, there will be the second quali of the GTs, and then we're going to have the second race of the Eastern European TCR at 10:40. By the way, the order for the Eastern European TCR, as is usual, is going to be dictated by the results of today's race, with a certain number of positions reversed, and that number is always dependent on a draw, which is done by the winning driver, and that today was Milan Vukovic. And he got to pick a ball out of a sack, and he wasn't that unlucky, actually, like Maťo Homola was at Oschersleben, where he picked the highest number of 10. Milan Vukovic actually picked 7, so he's going to drop from 1st to 7th, and the top 7 positions are going to get reversed for the Eastern European TCR race number 2 tomorrow. After that, we're going to have the second Swift Cup race at noon. After lunch break at 1:40, it's going to be the second sprint of GT cars. Then after that, the second Formula race, and then towards the end of the day at 4:10, second Clio Cup race, and the third Swift Cup race at 5 p.m. So, the safety car in this lap. And we're going to go racing again. Of course, the temperatures are dropping. For a small portion of the day, it looked like the summer had arrived. So I was quite surprised, because it's not been cold. It's been overcast and cloudy, but then for a small amount of time the sun burst through the clouds and it was like summer, and now it's cloudy again. Tomorrow the weather should actually be nicer, and we are going racing again. Filip Salaguarda under the green condition returns back to full speed and leads the race from Libor Milota and Piotr Vera. And it appears to me that, yeah, Dan Skolitsky has already lost a place to the Porsche 911 shared by Petr Brecka and Karel Neff. GT Sports Technology team. There is Franz Lahmer in his Porsche, prepared by Kogelbauer Motorsport, that has brought multiple cars to Hungary. One of the other ones, well, the other ones piloted by Richard Voschitz and Bob Bau. Both of them are actually further down the order. Filip Salakvardat has now set the fastest lap of the race right after the restart, 1:46.4, to go 0.7 of a second faster than Libor Milota. And look at that, it is now the KTM on the move, the GTX ahead of Frans Lamere. Also the GT Sports Technology car making progress, but now trying to also defend from Daniel Skalitski in that old generation R8 Audi that used to belong to ISR Racing way back then, but has been entered by DAC Racing team. And the ISR Racing team is now entering the latest generation Audi R8. So you'll see that there is grip around the outside, even despite the dust and powder. So that was a nice move from Daniel Skalitski. However, he could not get it completed and make it stick because he got stuck a little behind Frans Lamere. So had to slow down maybe a little sooner than he would have liked. And that allowed the GT Sports Technology Porsche back into 6th. There is also the other GTX KTM, that's Janík Motorsports car, driven by Václav Janík himself. And he is trying to make a move. Look at that! That was an opportunistic move. So Brecka and Neff, they are through, but now even Skalitski is through on Frans Lamere. And that, you know, wasn't without a touch. And now Janík is pushed wide, entering the start and finish straight, and he is dropping behind Alexander Ober, and Ober immediately attacking Lamere as well. So he goes down the inside, and if he manages to stop the car in time, which he does, then he enters the next lap already up in 7th, having been 9th just a couple of moments back. So Janík trying to have another look. Václav Janík spent a full season last year in Eastern European TCR driving the older i30 Hyundai. Now made his switch to GT racing, or let's say prototype racing, sort of. It's the GTX class that he's entered in. As is actually Alexander Ober, whom he is now trying to catch and overtake again in his Lambo. There's Kurt Wagner in the Mechanik Motorsports colours. And there is already Miro Konopka. The Slovakian legend is on the move. Is cutting his way through the field. He has to be careful. Those are slower machines, and they are needing different spaces for braking. But look, as soon as he's through, he's gone. That much faster is the prototype, actually. And at the end of this train, you'll notice the Adidas Racing's RS3 Audi. Bartosz Groszek is giving the M4 BMW run for its money. He's now behind Zeno Kovács. And he's trying to stay in the mix and trouble the car that on paper are faster. Miro Konopka already behind Kurt Wagner. such a diverse mix of cars and machines and classes and everything. It's interesting to see all of these actually fighting it out and actually staying together. Look, the RS3 Audi staying together with the M4 Beamer. And having a fight with that. They'll have it again. It's the Porsche Cayman, the GT4 spec. Then it's the M4 BMW GT4 spec. And then you've got the Cupra TCR, or Cupra Leon Competizione, the TCR spec car. And if you just compare, as already mentioned, you've got 3-litre straight 6 in the M4 BMW that has 550 brake horsepower, or up to 550 brake horsepower, which is amazing, because if you look at the current generation of the RS3 Audi, you have got up to 340 brake horsepower, so some 200 HP fewer or less. And it of course has a inline 4-cylinder engine, 2-litre. Alexander Oberer is on the move, and he's placing his Lamborghini ahead of the GT Sports Technology Porsche right now. And there is Miro Konopka. So he's gained a couple more places. We have got just over 5 minutes until the pit window gets opened. So that comes between the 25th and 35th minutes of unpleasant moment. It looked like Szabolcs Lantos was just trying to slow down even further to let the GT cars through, and you just noticed that the speed difference was massive already when all of the cars are running at full chat. The GTs are of course much faster than the Clio, but if you slow down further still, then the speed difference is of course way more significant, which is potentially causing dangerous situations, but all of the drivers actually negotiated that with respect. Miro Konopka up into 4th. This is actually an interesting fight. It's Ivan Vlachkov trying to put pressure on Bob Bau in his Porsche. And behind them, János Santa in the Vantage Aston Martin. So the remaining time is now dropped under 35 minutes, which only means one thing, and that is of course that the pit window is open right now. So the drivers are now allowed to go into the pits and start with their mandatory pit stops. It is, of course, a matter of tactics for every one of them. Depends whether you're planning to stop right away or you'll be waiting towards the end of your pit stop window. Or just do it in the middle. It's very much depending on your current situation. Maybe if you're racing alone and your tires are still holding up well, then you're just gonna go until you can, because after the pit stop things can change. After the pit stop things can change, and then if you're repairing, of course, then it depends whether you're the gentleman driver, you're the professional driver, who's driving first, who's driving second, what your tactic is, and whether you're maximizing performance or you're maximizing the enjoyment. And this is Alexander Ober in his Lamborghini, now entering the pits, and also the GT Sports Technology Porsche in the pit lane. Not a terrible amount to be done around the Lamborghini. Of course, the tyre pressure is taken. That means that they are measured, just for the team to see how the tyres are doing. There is a short discussion between the engineer and the driver as to how the car has been handling up until this moment. This is Libor Milota still holding on to second, but already trailing Filip Salaguarda by 20 seconds nearly. Now lapped the Silver Sting machine, entered by the local pairing of Boris Kalman and Balázs Volontaire. There is Lemma Racing's GT4 AMG Merc. Andrej Lah and Matej Kosic. Swapping places behind the wheel and in the garage. Presumably, I was going to say on the pit wall, but nobody's really sitting there that much. It's still not so warm. It's not as bad as it used to be in the previous 2 years when Hungary was hosting the season opener and it was incredibly cold for both of them. This time around we have temperatures at least 10 degrees Celsius higher, which is definitely way more pleasant. And tomorrow the weather should be even nicer, which we're very much looking forward to. There is Miro Konopka up to fourth, as we are approaching the halfway mark of the race. Janos Santa is in the pits, also the Radical SR3 that is entered. The Radical SR3 that is entered by the pairing of Adam Zentner and Maciej Marcinkiewicz. The Polish pairing, they are in the pits. Also Antal Žigo and Csaba Waltra, Christian Wimberger, and also Hans-Peter Eder entered the pit lane. And their cars are now in the hands of their mechanics. And this is the race leader, Filip Salaguarda, still dominating with the ISR Racing's special from Ingolstadt. There is Bartosz Groszek, the Additis Racing's Audi. Further the cars entering the pit lane. This is not ideal for Filip Salaguarda, who is now there behind a much slower car. That is Ivan Vlachkov, but at the same time, Filip Salaguarda was enjoying a significant lead anyway, so this shouldn't cost him. But you'll notice, well, just take a look at the rear wings of this car and also the R8 Audi. It's funny how the aerodynamics of the rear wing evolved when it comes to the support pillars that actually hold it in position. Because originally you'd have pillars that joined the wing from the bottom, well, shortest way. That would of course seem logical. But these cars, through the development, they are of course put under huge amount of scrutiny and testing and development and data collecting, etc., etc. So one day somebody came and said, look, maybe it's aerodynamically worse for the wing to be joined from the bottom. And you've just seen the Sing car driven by Ivan Vlachkov. That has the old-fashioned wing, which is connected right from the bottom. But then if you'll notice, for example, on the newer GTs, just like the Porsche of the Franz Lahmer, or for example, even the LMP3 Ligier of Miro Konopka, the pillars actually go over the top of the wing and are mounting to the top surface of it, because it's actually discovered that it is the lower surface of it that's more important for the aerodynamic reason, and actually its collaboration, its symbiosis and harmony with the rest of the car and its proximity to the rest of the car. So right here you'll see the pillars will sort of overhang the wing and reach it from the top. And then somebody did even more development and testing and came up with an even crazier idea and said, okay, but let's mount the wing from the top, but let's not have the pillars overhang the wing in front of it, but behind it, let's just have the wing mounted from the top and completely in the free air for the aerodynamic purposes. And then you'll notice the rear wing on the brand new Evo 2 R8 Audi of Filip Salaguarda, and you'll just notice how crazy the pillars look, because they go all the way around the back end of the rear wing and are mounted from the top. So it's little details, but if you just, you know, focus on it, you'll just discover what the development, what way the development has gone in maybe such a marginal thing like rear wing mounting. And it's definitely interesting stuff. I mean, just now look at the Lambo. It's got the overhanging pillars mounted from the top, and the pillars are actually crossing the path in front of the wing. But then you'll see the brand new R8 Audi, and the pillars are just, they look like the, what is it called, the music key. The violin key, what is it? Yeah. Sort of making their way around the wing, all around, and being mounted from the top as well. Of course, Mechanic Motorsport entering the latest generations of Hurricanes. That's also the Evo 2, which is basically the R8 Audi, but in the angrier coat of Lamborghini. Historically, the Lambos and Audis shared a lot of components and the structure and the architecture. And then you've got the rumbling and roaring AMG Mercedes with a gigantic V8 engine under the bonnet, which is 97 miles long, nearly. And again, the architectures of cars. You've got the Lambos, those are mid-engine, with the driver sitting quite, well, sort of in the middle, but rather further forward. Then you've got the Porsche 911 that has got a bonnet in front of the driver, but nothing underneath it. I mean, not the engine, because the engine's at the back, as is so characteristic for the 911 Porsche. But then you've got the Cayman, which is then different, and then you've got the R8 Audi that is sort of like the Lamborghini, as mentioned, that's got the engine in the middle. But then you've got the Merc, and the engine is all the way at the front, and it's got the longest of bonnets you'll see on a car in the ESET Cup series. And then you've got a proper racer, which is the prototype, which is the Ligier with the engine in the middle, and the driver really, really way up front. So Philippe Salaquarda is now through on further back markers. That GT3 Audi is just so fast, and Philippe Salaquarda has been untroubled since the start of the race. He survived the early safety car with no issues at all. Now everybody has been to the pits as well. So Philippe Salaquarda leading from Milota, and Miro Konopka has already made his way up, well, back up the third. And let's see what his times are. He is actually holding the fastest lap of the race, because the best that Philippe Salaquarda has managed so far was 144.7 on lap 9, whereas Miro Konopka 4 laps later did 144.2. So he was, well, let's say 4 tenths faster, because it was 44.298. Salaquarda did 44.724. The best that Libor Milota has done was 146.6. So we're still expecting Miro Konopka to catch up with Milota, but of course they are both entered in different classes, so we can't expect these two to be fighting together, or at least can't be expecting them to be fighting together that much. 21 minutes left on the clock, and a couple of coins on top of that. And there is Miro Konopka. With massive experience of Le Mans specials. He did Le Mans itself, he did Asian Le Mans series. He's done pretty much everything there is to have been done, or to be done, in the GT/prototype world. All through his vast career. But now Philippe Salaquarda is on the move, and he's pouncing. He has just set the fastest lap of the race, 143.791. So he's improved the performance of Miro Konopka by another half a second. And the fastest lap goes back to his hands. We've now entered the last third of the race. Quite a lot of oil spills after the opening day of racing action, needs to be said. There There is Konopka. He is catching up with Libor Milota pretty quickly, just under 5 seconds, separating them. This is the Trevor Racing's M4 BMW, well, GT4 M4 BMW. That's what I needed to say. And then Hans-Peter Eder in his TCR Cupra with the DSG gearbox. Actually, that's the special one. Well, for a long time in the TCR, well, it had its own class because it's got the double clutch flappy paddle gearbox. It's an interesting architecture actually, because it's well, it's paddle shifted and it's working in a little bit of a different way. Because the standard box, say 6-speed box, you've got the input shaft and the output shaft, and you've got the gear pairs on both of them. And of course, at any given point, one of the gear pairs is engaged by the dog clutch. But with the DSG, you've actually got, I believe it is, yeah, one input shaft and 2 output shafts. And you've got, that means you've got basically 2 pairs of shafts, and one of them is servicing, or let's say taking care of the odd numbered gears, and the other one is then executing the even numbered gears. And the theory behind it is that the DSG should be faster because, for example, when you're in first, the second shaft is already pre-selecting second, so that you then shift seamlessly, and you don't actually go off power as you normally go with a standard gearbox. The standard gearbox is so-called, let's say, with cut flow of torque. But with the DSG, you never cut the torque flow off completely. You just drop it a little, and then you come back on with the second one. In the meantime, that's a Porsche fight sorted. That was Bob Bau losing 10th to the GT Sport Technology 911 GT3 Cup. And there is quite some traffic. It's Felipe Salaguarda finding his way through. Further back markers. And in the meantime, Miro Konopka has also moved up into second, as he has already dealt with Libor Milota. That must have happened just a minute ago maximum, because they are still quite close to one another. There was a 0.9 second difference between them on the finish line of the previous lap. So that is a change in the overall order, but not a change in the classes. Blue flags being waved all around the track now, as the field is now properly mixed up, as is regular for endurance racing. There is Libor Milota, currently second in the GT3 class. He's the last season's sprint race champion. Dan Skalitsky further back. Now also overtaking back markers. Salaquarda leading from Konopka, and also leaving from Konopka because he's still lapping faster. Libor Milota third. Then you've got the good speed racing's pairing of Piotr Vera and Dan Arrow. Dan Skalitsky fifth, Václav Janík fifth. Then Josef Záruba currently in seventh, having taken over from Kurt Wagner. You've got Pavel Sovička in eighth. You've got Alexander Ober in ninth. And then the pairing of Petr Brecka and Karel Neff in 10th. Class leaders. Filip Salaquarda leading the GT3s and of course the race overall. Miro Konopka leading the D5 class. The only other car is the SR3 Radical of Centneren Marcinkiewicz all the way down in 20th. So that's not really a let's say fair fight. Cars are not on par with one another. GTXs, the GTX class currently led by Václav Janík. GTC class led by Wagner and Záruba. And first among the GT4s is Zeno Kováč. And regarding the TCX, the touring cars, it is Radim Adamek and Bartosz Groszek in the race lead. Massive spin somewhere, I've just heard, of the ambient microphones. There it is. That's the Silverstein car that has now been spun extensively, but fortunately not crashed. It did have a big shunt a couple of years back in Croatia at Grobnik, where we're not going this year. There's a GT4 fight for you, Trevor Racing versus Lemma Racing. It appears actually that was not, it was actually not for position. There's Josef Záruba in his Lambo, and he's about to lap the Silver Sting. So blue flags are being shown. Záruba needs to stay patient. Now he is through, but he's still trying to catch up with Václav Janík, although not for class lead. They're both leading their respective categories, but of course for the 6th place overall. So some pride to be gained in that. And Václav Janík did 151.1 on the previous lap. Záruba did 148.9, so he is catching up quite quickly. And we've got 10 minutes remaining. This is Good Speed Racing's AMG Mercedes, currently holding on to 3rd in the GT3 class. That car behind, that is the Sinca R1 of Ivan Vlachkov. They are not fighting together, and this is the Renault Clio, driven by Szabolcs Lantos, prepared by Karpek Racing Team. They actually were in a bit of a hurry, bit of an unnecessary hurry before the race, because the Clio Cup race sort of had just ended. There was a Renault Clio Cup race at 3:30, and then after that DCR race at 4:20, and the Clio's actually remained in Parc Fermé for quite some time, so there was already a little bit of attention for the car to be made ready for the race, but in the end no issues with that. That's just the perks of trying to enter your car in multiple classes across the racing weekend. And there's the fight for P6 that we were talking about. Probably one of the last changes in the order that we are going to witness anywhere in the field. There are some closer fights as well. Yeah, that's Libor Milota, but let's get back to that shot. Let's get back to the fight for 6th, but it is now done. Zaroba is through on Yannick, and he's taken 6th spot off his hands. There's Miro Konopka in 2nd. He is more than half a minute. Actually, he is more than 1 lap behind the race leader, it appears. Or we just need to, we just need to wait for the Ligier to come across the line once again, for the live timing to be properly updated. Little wider exit there, and it is 36 seconds, so just over half a minute between the leading R8 Audi and the LMP3 Ligier, which is now actually lapping faster. 1:45.1 for Konopka, 1:45.8 for Salaquarda, so about 0.7 of a second difference between the two. But Salaquarda now just cruising and trying to bring the car home and not to risk anything dramatic in the remainder of the race. We have got 6 minutes and a half, roughly, left in this race. With that, we are going to top off the Saturday's program of the 2nd round of the 2023 championship of ESET Cup Series. As mentioned, after that, we're going racing at further venues. We're going to Austria on the 20th and 21st of May. We're going to Most on the 5th and 6th of August. Then on the 19th and 20th of August we're going to Slovakia, and 9th and 10th of September we're going to the Czech Republic, Brno, for the season finale. Libor Milota, last year's champion when it comes to the overall ESET Cup Series standings. Before that, in 2021, it was Marcin Jedlinski in the similar AMG GT3 Mercedes. But before that, in 2020, which was that COVID-shortened season that only started in July in Croatia and only consisted of 4 rounds, that was won by Daniel Skalicki in the same car that he's driving today, the R8 Audi. Before that, in 2019, it was Richard Chlad Jr. And 2018, Marcin Jedlinski again, but that time in the R8 Audi, the newer generation, but it was not the current Evo 2, it was the previous spec. Then in 2017 it was Jakub Knoll driving for Schenki's Motorsport. in GT3 BMWs, M6 and Z4 back then. In 2016 it was Miro Konopka. Before that in 2015 Stoffie Rosina, and the first 2 seasons in 2014 and 2013 won by Miro Konopka. So this is in total the 11th season of the ESET Cup Series, previously called ESET V4 Cup. So just under 3 minutes left on the clock, which means that we are really reaching the end of the race. And with 2.5 minutes left on the clock, Filip Salaguarda is coming across the line for the 29th time in this race. And that means that we have 2 more laps in front of us. Well, you won't notice that on the camera, but there's significantly less light around the track already, and you'll just see what the headlights are doing, how the glare of them is just spreading even on the camera lens further and further. So if you were now to step out, if you were here, maybe you are, then you'll just notice that, well, it's really getting late, and the visibility is getting worse and worse. And it's actually already pretty dark. It's 7:30. Of course, the day's program has been delayed by earlier stoppages and issues in the previous races. There was an oil spill in the Renault Twingo Cup race. There was a big crash in the TCR race for Adam Rzepecki. Luckily, he's fine. And all of that is actually added together. Usually the ESET Cup's program is quite packed. So if anything happens, that's just delaying the whole schedule. And that simply comes out of the fact that we're trying to cram in together as many racing championships as we possibly can. And here in Hungary, it's actually really a good set. Honestly, needs to be said. Lots of championships, and most of them consisting of really many cars. I mean, if you look at the past seasons, it's not always been the case. For example, among the Clios, sometimes even the TCRs, etc. Now we've got easily 20 strong fields here and there, and it's just joy to watch. So really great place to visit. If you've been following us on streams, I have already advertised the rest of the calendar. We're going to Austria at Red Bull Ring, we're going to Slovakia Ring, we're going to Most, we're going to Brno. So if it suits you to join us and come visit us for any of those rounds, just do so. It's beautiful cars, wonderful machines, great drivers, great atmosphere. It's just a place to be, and you're gonna enjoy it. And of course, lots and lots of good racing action. Yes, it might not be fought as fiercely as in, let's say, World Championships, etc., etc. You've got amateur drivers, you've got gentleman drivers, you've got drivers just fighting for their first national license, etc., etc. But even if it's the entry level of motorsport, at some spots is just beautiful, and it's worth seeing. And with that, we are simply going to close off today's program. This is Filip Salaguarda making his way around the final corner, across the line, and on to the last lap, it seems. On to the last lap. Yeah. I was expecting the race to be ended, honestly. But there's the board saying that this is the last lap of the race. Okay then. Just last 4,381 meters to deal with. The Good Speed Racing's Mercedes will be lapped in the process. Maybe. But very carefully. It is actually very much depending, it is very much depending on the willingness of the Good Speed Racing's Merc to let the Audi through, whether he wants to do another lap or not. It appears that, yeah, Filip Salaguarda is not going to enter any action right now. His race is about to end no matter what, and he doesn't want it to end in the wall. So he is just going to be patient, make his way around the final corner. So it's one more lap for Good Speed Racing, but it is finish for the ISR Racing's Audi. Filip Salaguarda takes victory here in Hungary to cement his position in the lead of the championship. Filip Salaguarda has been dominant today with his R8 Audi. Ooh, and there's an issue for the Ligier on the very last lap. What happened there? Did Miro Konopka spin, or did he think that was the end of the race already, or what happened there? He was actually driving quite slowly out of the second to last corner. It looked like he just spun. There is Libor Milota. Making his way around the last corner. There he goes across the line to score second in the GT3 class, third place overall. And now we're going to have to wait for the Good Speed Racing's Merc, which is now the last car on the track, as it entered its last lap just meters ahead of the race-winning Audi. Either way, he's going to score third in the GT3 class. So it is Filip Salaguarda taking victory in the second endurance race of the season. Miro Konopka second overall, having been spun and dropped to last on the opening lap of the race after that unfortunate clash with Gregor Gigot, but he made his way back to where he started. Libor Milota third and second in his class. Piotr Vera with Dan Arrow fourth overall, third in the class. Dan Skalitski comes home fifth. Then it is Josef Záruba and Kurt Wagner victorious in the GTC class. Václav Janík taking victory in the GTX class from Petr Lisa and Pavel Sovička. Alexander Ober coming third in the category. Petr Brecka and Karel Neff second in GTCs and 10th overall. Behind them, Franz Lámer, János Santa, Bob Bau, Ivan Vlachkov, and it is Zeno Kovács taking victory among the GT4s. Let's just see the highlights of the race, starting with that lap 1 bump between Trevor Racing and ARC Bratislava. cars are now coming back to Parc Fermé, and that's it for Sunday's program. Let me just add that it is Aditis Racing's Radim Adamek and Bartosz Groszyk who took victory in the TCX class, and of course the only Renault Clio on the track in the hands of Szabolcs Lantos. The only casualty of the race was the Trevor Racing's M4 GT3 that retired after the opening lap, after the clash with the LMP3 Ligier. That's it for Saturday's program. It's been packed and it's been interesting, it's been eventful, and I think there is no reason to believe that tomorrow is going to be any different. We are awaiting yet more exciting action, starting at 8:30 with the second race of the Renault Twingo Cup, and going all the way to 5 p.m. for the third race of the Suzuki Swift Cup Europe. So it's going to be a packed day, you know, get some good sleep and come back ready for that. And just to make with that full stop, let's say, behind the opening day of racing action here in Hungary, we're going to give you the results table, and yeah, with that, it is going to be that. I really want to thank you for watching. It's been a great day. It's been a pleasure. My name is Pavel Fabry. I'm your commentator for the weekend and for the championship, as is usual. And I'm really happy that you are joining us and that we can be together for this. Honestly, be back for more streaming, but also be back personally. Come over and watch this racing. It's great fun and it's great atmosphere, as already mentioned. It's definitely worth seeing. So with that, it is everything that we've got to offer you for today. Get some good rest, and tomorrow morning 8:30 we'll be back with more action from Hungary.